go, but basically when we use the words love and hate, we tend to use them very loosely. I mean, like you might say that you love Frosted Flakes or, Lucky Charms, whatever your favorite cereal is, but you may say that you hate certain things too that you eat, like you may, or drink, like coffee, for instance. Some people say they hate coffee. I'm not one of those people, but some people do say that. And some people love Marvel movies, so they'll say, I love Marvel movies. But they may say that they hate, like, a cat, like something like that. We say this, and we live ultimately in like a love-hate culture where most things we have an opinion of, and we use the words love and hate to show those opinions. They're strong words, and so we use them to show our opinion. And like, love is a big deal to us, right? Because, I mean, one of the top genres of movies is romance movies, and most songs are written about love or heartbreak, which is still about love in a way. We have a whole day dedicated to it out of the 66 days of the year. Valentine's Day is all about love, and in church we talk a lot about God's love for us, and which is a good thing. We talk about how we should love other people. But hate is a big deal too for us. I mean, think about how much you enjoy watching or following like celebrities or, social media influencers have beef with each other. It's something that we gravitate towards. We like gossip. We like people against each other because it's exciting. It's unexpected. You can't really tell what's going to go next. And so hate is a big deal too. But if love is such a big deal, then why is hate so natural? And that's what I kind of want to talk about today. We're gonna focus on one way that people hate each other, and that's not there's so many different ways that people do this, in subtle ways and big ways. But the main one that I want to talk about today is gossip. And gossip is a big deal. And the really interesting thing that I learned from one of the books that I read at MC is it was like the memoirs of this pastor, and he was talking about the history of the word gossip. And what gossip really started as is it was in the church. It started as a function of the church, and the reason that it was used in a good way and an important way, not the way that we use it now, was so that like a pastor, before technology and being able to contact everyone all the time to stay updated on their lives, it was a way for a pastor to be relayed knowledge. So there would literally be people in the church called gossips, and their job was to figure out what was going on in everyone's life and then report it back to the pastor so that he knew the needs of his people, which is a good thing. But over time, clearly it's been molded into something that's less than favorable. It wrecks all kinds of situations. But don't think, this is where I'm going with it. Don't think so surely that you know that gossip is a bad thing. Because everybody is like, yeah, I don't like people who gossip, or I don't want to be around people who gossip. But we all do it. And even in most of y'all's cases, the school situation makes it really easy to gossip. I mean, you're stuck in one place with a bunch of different people, and so you hear them all talking about what they do, and you can get bored pretty easily, and there's times when you're just sitting there, and it makes things really interesting, and people's worst moments come up in conversation like that. So you may be thinking that you're not the kind of person that ever talks about other people or would never talk about other people, but in some way, shape, or form, we all, portray our opinions or talk about other people, or even, even if you don't directly talk about other people, you may hint towards, other people's personal information when they're not present in the conversation. And I think there's a few reasons why we do that, and the main one is insecurity, because it's really easy to feel better when you're talking down about somebody else. I always use this analogy, like if everything's flat, right? If you're on a flat, giant piece of earth, right? And you have a shovel, the easiest way for you to be elevated in that situation is to dig everything else down. That's the fastest and the easiest way, is to just dig everything else down, because then you're still elevated, but everything else is lower. And that's what it's like when you gossip and break other people down. You don't really move up any, but it makes you feel better about yourself because you're higher up than them in that situation. It's easy bonding. It's easy to talk about somebody else to somebody, to, connect. It's fun. I mean, that's why we watch fail videos, is because it's funny. I mean, if we're being honest. It's a competitive advantage, because just like I was talking about with insecurity, when you can talk bad about other people, it gives you a leg up kind of in the friendship competition. Sometimes you have good intentions. Sometimes you're trying to help out that person, but it just, you just overshared. And I mean, there's a ton of reasons why people gossip. But the fact of the matter is, it's everywhere. Gossip is everywhere. And some people are even famous because people gossiped about them, and that's the only reason why. Like, that's the only reason they became famous. And even though it's common, and even though it's what is done, we know it's not what should be. We know that it doesn't feel good. We know it doesn't feel good when people talk about us. And we know how bad it could feel. It can be when we get found out. I know when I was playing baseball at Northwest, we just got done long tossing, and it was the day before a game, and I was in the dugout. I was complaining because I thought I knew everything, right? And I just said out loud, I was like, I don't understand, why we just long toss if we have a game tomorrow. And I looked up, and my coach was right there in front of me, and I felt terrible. And it wasn't that I felt terrible just because I figured I might get in trouble for doing that, because I should have probably gotten in trouble. But the reason I felt bad is because I was basically talking about my coach. I was basically, basically bad-mouthing him, saying he didn't know what he was doing, and that was wrong. So we know what it feels like to be talked about, and we know what it feels like when we get caught talking about others. It doesn't feel good. So why is it so common? Well, I think that the best thing to do is to just look at some advice that Paul gave us. And Paul wrote majority of the New Testament. And this advice he gave us may be some of the best on gossip that there is. And it's in a letter to the church in Ephesus in the book of Ephesians. So if you're not there yet, we're going to be in Ephesians 4:29. And they would have a ton of opportunity to gossip in Ephesus, because it was this kind of breeding ground for cultural divide. So tons of different people from different places and different, wealth levels, and people could have very easily, gossiped. And the reason that we have this advice is because, Paul wanted them to be different than the culture. He wanted the church to stand out and to operate differently. So in Ephesians 4:29, he writes, "Do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouths." Now, I know when I read that, the first thing that came to your mind was like cussing, right? And cussing probably isn't the best idea. I don't think that's probably all that he meant in this situation. Because one of the meanings of the Greek word that's used here is rotten. And that's exactly what gossip is. It's rotten speech. It's talk that rots. It rots your friendships. It rots your relationships with people. It rots your reputations. It can even ruin a ruin a relationship that you don't even have yet. Because that person that you're talking about might become one of the most influential people in your lives. But talking about them isn't going to make that very healthy. And on the other side of things, gossip can be an indication of what's on the inside as well. I mean, we always use that analogy of fruit on a tree. Like, if a tree's healthy, it's going to produce fruit. But more than just the analogy, Jesus explicitly states in Mark 7:15 this very same idea, that it's not what goes into your body that defiles you, but you are defiled by what comes from your heart. And that's Jesus giving us very clear advice that what comes out of us tells us what's in here. It shows us what is driving us. It shows us what's steering us, what's in control of our lives. And it's more about the motivation than the words. That's why I think he's talking about more than just cussing. He's talking about what is the heart behind the things that come out of your mouth. So what's the alternative? Paul gives us one at the end of verse 29. Do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouths, but only what is helpful for building others up according to their needs, that it may benefit those who listen. So to sum that up, he's basically saying, think about that other person before you speak about them. Think about the person that you're talking about and how you're about to talk about them. And say things that build others up. And care for them. Like, when you talk about them, care for them because you're affecting them, even if you're not talking directly to them. Help them. Are you saying things that are helpful to them? Are you saying things that are going to make that person you're talking to think good of them or worse? And you'll choose words because of that allow these things, that allow you to benefit that person. And the reason that we do that is not just so that we have a good reputation or so that people think that we're, a nice person that always has something nice to say, but it's because Jesus says that what you say about others really says a lot about you. It says what's in here. Basically, what do you want to be all about? Do you want to be about building up people or tearing down people? Do you want to be about, helping people succeed, or do you want to be about gaining a competitive edge at the expense of others? Do you want to be about hate, or do you want to let love be what you're all about? You see, this starts way before a single word leaves our mouth. It's the questions that we ask ourselves that dictate how we treat others and how we talk about others ultimately. Because we'll ask ourselves things like, well, if I join in on the gossip, am I going to look cool? Am I going to be, part of the crowd? Will they accept me for that? Or, if I try to only say nice things, will I look like a tryhard, or will I look like somebody who's holier than thou? Or if I say that I don't want to be in the gossip, are people going to stop talking to me? Is what I'm saying even true? Is the stuff that they're saying true? And should I join in on that conversation? These are the kind of questions that we have to ask. And even if you're not actively asking yourself, in your mind you are. You're saying, every time before you talk, you're saying, is this going to make me look cool? Am I going to be funny? And that's not helpful, because the most practical question that you can ask before you say anything, before anything comes out of your mouth, you should just ask yourself, is that helpful? Is what I'm about to say helpful? Because it's okay, actually, contrary to popular belief, it's okay to say less things. Every moment that you're with other people doesn't have to be filled with talk. It's okay to sit in silence. It's okay at times. Because I think that's honestly one of the reasons that gossip happens more often than not, is because there's silence and people feel the need to fill it. But before you say something just to fill a silence, ask yourself, is this helpful? And then the last thing that I want you to do as we close this up is to seriously just take a moment and imagine yourself in a world or in a situation or in your life where you do this, where before anything you ever say, you just say, is this helpful? Should I say that? Will it benefit people or will it tear them down? And then, how would your relationships change if you did this? It might end some, but probably for the better. And how would your witness change? How would people view Jesus because of the way that you talked about people? And how much more likely would people want to know him if you say that you're reflecting him and then you're a person who only builds others up and doesn't break them down with words? How would that change the way that you lived your life? I hope this was helpful. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you'll be back next week. We're going to close it up. It's just a 2-week series. And then we should be kicking off this fall semester, but I love y'all. I hope that it's a great few weeks, and I hope that this can be applied to your life today. And I'll talk to y'all later. All right. Bye.